motion. 2 minutes. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. We're Town Council meeting for Copper Canyon for Monday, June 8th, 2026. It's 7 p.m. We will do the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag and the Texas flag. All right, well, thank you for coming this evening. The first item on the agenda is Town Council will exit for a quick, hopefully, executive session regarding from Section 55.074 personnel matters and in consultation with our lawyer. And that will start at 7:01. And we are back, council's back from executive session at 7:44. Is there any action to be taken coming out of executive session? The answer is no. No action to be taken coming out of executive session. Let's move on to the next subject on the agenda. Is public input. Citizens may address the town council during this portion on topics not listed on the posted agenda. Speakers sign in and on the sheets available, and we'll open that up. You have 3 minutes each speaker, 3 minutes to speak. No submittals. Is there anybody from the audience that wishes to speak? Hearing that, we don't have any public input, so we'll close public input. We'll move on to staff, mayor, and council reports. The first item I'd like to welcome my brother Mike and his wife Pam to the meeting tonight, coming in from Scottsdale. Thanks for coming and visiting us for the week. We appreciate it. True. Thank you. I hear that a lot. So, and Troy, anything on the staff report?
Yes, Mayor, our next item is a quick update on the diagnostic from Plan Strategies. And so, as you guys may realize, that usually Yvonne was here to present that. He did a lot of work for us. He is out of town, and so his business partner, Brad, is here to present that result for the diagnostics as it relates to our ordinances. They had gone through and done a lot of work and heavy lifting, and the report is in y'all's packet. We also sent them the feedback from all the council members and folks from the workshop, so they had all that information as well. And there's some notes related in the report to that, and so you guys will see that. And Brad is here to answer any questions, and then he has a little PowerPoint as well. And I'll introduce Brad, and come on up.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciate you letting me be here tonight and for filling in for Yvonne. Hope he's having fun. We did start this process, and why it matters is really any challenges with the current ordinance. We wanted to make sure that we're making it easier to interpret different rules that are in there. We wanted to assess the ordinances objectively and make sure that it's not just about making a bunch of changes, but actually making it usable for your community and your staff to actually move these elements forward. We want to prioritize issues in terms of high, medium, low kind of programs, and then really stress intended outcomes that are clear and defensible. Y'all are able to actually speak to the actual ordinances with authority when you make a ruling. So that's why we really want to do those kinds of diagnostics. And so as we went through this process, it was a full comprehensive review of all the ordinances and different reviewers. We have a third person that we call on for peer review stuff that we also ask to participate with us. So, you know, three sets of eyes are better than two. We did first identify technical corrections, which were presented to y'all. And we reviewed community feedback, institutional knowledge, as Troy mentioned, and then we are presenting that diagnostic to you in a full format in this presentation. This process started in December with the full ordinance review. We did do a kickoff in January. We recommended some technical corrections in February. We went through a more legals, administrative review. We're not lawyers by trade or on the bar, so we want to make sure we're doing institutional history and diagnostic direction just to make sure we're meeting, state rules and things. And then tonight we're presenting, and then we assembled the full ordinance diagnostic. So getting into that diagnostic itself, it's been a two-phase approach, one addressing minor corrections, and then in phase two, diving into a deeper diagnostic of all 14 ordinances. The collaborative coordination was with town staff, the attorney, and council. We want to make sure that we're getting everybody's input, especially the written input that y'all had provided, and making sure we're meeting technical issues that you're actually realizing. So what are those things that you're actually going through? And then we went through a detailed line-by-line analysis, and then we've presenting this evaluation criteria. just a quick, clip of what that line by line looks like, identifying references, looking at definitions, and then also checking for any conflicts or duplicates of language. Sometimes you get, copy paste errors and a lot of those kinds of things. So just looking through a lot of that. So system-wide, some basic themes that came out, some inconsistent definitions, either between chapters. They were the same word was designed or defined differently in different ones. So making sure that we're consistent with those definitions, making sure authority and enforcement are actually happening the way they are actually working and versus how it's written. Sometimes action is different from how it's actually written. Making sure any subjective standards are clearly defined or better defined. We don't want things that could be interpreted as preference when you're talking about what the rules are. And then also double checking any outdated or misplaced content that may have been located in the wrong location. A lot of times, especially over many years, you end up with a lot of folks playing with it, a lot of different staff playing with the code and making edits and adjustments. So sometimes it's just good to do quick cleanup, make sure that's all organized. In terms of the high-risk, high-impact items, inconsistent, missing, or contradictory definitions. That was in most of the chapters that we noticed, so just kind of identifying those and ironing out the conflicts. Fragmented administrative authority and appeals in about half the chapters. Subjective nuisance and property maintenance. Subjective mean personal preferences or personal opinions could be interpreted as the legislation, and so we want to make sure that it's just cut and dry. These are the rules, and this is how it should be applied. Making sure drainage and floodplain standards, some of those rules are split in different chapters, so making sure they're in one spot so all the rules are easily identifiable. And then any external code references like a state statute or a chapter from a special engineering manual, those things should all be identified and updated so the folks that need to understand what external code they're using, they can identify the right code. On the medium side, just some missing provisions, purpose, applicability, some nice to have things that help define why we're doing things. Reserved sections and navigation problems, misplaced content, outdated business, licensing and peddler rules, just some things that needed to be updated. And then the very low priority fee amounts, having fees removed to a special schedule versus actually being adopted inside there, so it's really adopted by reference. Expiring or misleading sections, just remove or rewrite those. The role of the town administrator, and then truck road authority. So just making sure we're all organized. Out of all that analysis, there were really 4 chapters that stood out as potential candidates for rewrites. So that would be kind of reorganize, make sure they're all clear, make sure they have all the content in there according to what your goals and vision and dreams are. So one would be the offenses and nuisances. One is the business regulation. So chapter 8, chapter 4, chapter 14 and 14A for zoning. It's a lot of times those are just, they don't match what your master plan is or what your comprehensive plan is. So we want to make sure that those are jiving. And then chapter 13, utilities. So just making sure that the authorities, technical inconsistencies, and references are all updated. But that would be our recommendations as you start to consider where you would like to go on your as you're reading the diagnostic. So for next steps, the diagnostic offers a flexible roadmap. It's really to your purview, where you'd like to go, and things for you to consider. You can implement some quick wins pretty easily through just working with your staff or working with us, whichever you prefer. And then really planning phase rewrites as you go. That way you're making progress, and then you can also work on other fun things. I saw you have the dark sky ordinance this evening in discussion. So as you start to unburden yourself from some of these logistical things, you can start to dream a little bit bigger about what rules can help you make this a great place to live. So we hope that this is helpful for you and that you're able to make some clear decisions based on the work provided.
So, Mayor and Council, as he mentioned, if you look in the report itself, I think it starts on page 4 where it says prioritize action matrix. And so looking at that table, you know, I think the next step, and this is part of the budget process as well, which, you know, those items would y'all want to see move forward and need assistance with. So, for example, on the last page of the report, it talks about a full rewrite. And so we can get Yvonne's team to give us some pricing on that. So as we prepare for the 26-27 budget fiscal year, we can add some of these things in there if that's y'all's choice to do. But that kind of gives you, that table kind of gives you what he had just mentioned, what is, you know, what they recommend is a high or medium type of change that we need to make to our ordinances. But that's a good tool if y'all want to consider that.
As we can imagine, a complete rewrite are heavy lift items for us. And I'll say that we're not here to rewrite the whole thing, but there are some subjects we need to fix. And we're going to have much more discussion on it before we go on. But we really appreciate what you've done for us so far. And you and Yvonne both and the whole company has really helped us out for fixing some of our ordinances.
Well, we like to provide work that's useful,
Yeah.
that you're able to move forward on. And again, these are things that, many of the things that you could probably do on your own, but if you want to do it quicker, we're here to support you as you move forward.
We appreciate that. Thank you,
Thank
Brad.
you.
Appreciate it. Anybody have any questions for Brad before he walks away? Okay, good. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate it. And tell Yvonne hi for us. Troy, anything else on your report?
Yes, sir, Mayor. So just want to highlight a couple of things. The sewer maintenance program that we're in is coming to a close in June, so they've got to went through and repaired some manholes and some things that they needed to do, so that's coming to a close in June. They're on the final steps of that. Also want to mention this weekend we had our trail cleanup scheduled, but due to the weather, they rescheduled it for this upcoming weekend. So on the 13th, they will be out there in the morning doing the cleanup. So if anybody wants to join them, feel free to do that. Information on our website about that. We're also in close as far as planning for our big 4th of July event that's going to be on July 4th. The parade and all the things that are going on with that. So you can read more about that in the report. And then also, as we're getting more and more documents prepared for our proposed budget for 26-27, we will go ahead and schedule a workshop for the next council meeting on July 13th. So you'll get more information about what all that would include. So we're kind of putting all the CIP information together, all just the line items that we've been working on as well. So that'll be an opportunity for you guys to see that for the first time, and then y'all can make recommendations if there's things that you guys want to change, and then we can kind of move on from there and get it prepared for August for consideration. Let's see, TriStar Construction, we've gotten all the paperwork and agreements and everything finalized for that. They have ordered some materials, so all that's coming in. They're going to start this week on kind of doing some electrical work in here and changing out some light fixtures. And so that process is well underway. And so we should have a new dais by the middle of August. And so we're working around our council schedule and a P&Z schedule and the court schedule. And so we kind of talk through all that as well. So I'll keep you guys posted as that kind of starts to progress along with that.
Hey,
There-
Troy,
yeah.
just a quick question. How long will the full scope of the work take? Because I know it's just, this is the dais, but when they do everything, will they, at that point, will they be finished with all the work?
Yes. yeah.
Okay, so sometime in August.
So mid-August, we should be done with the new sound system, all this should be done, the countertops, the electrical, the whole deal. So we're shooting for mid to late August for all that to be completed, yes. Upcoming dates, you guys have those. Development, Twin Oaks, they're still doing some dirt work over there, but due to weather, some of that got delayed. Copper Knolls Estates, we did an initial walkthrough. They had a punch list to accomplish, so they're still working on the punch list for Copper Knolls, so we have not given them a final acceptance of the public improvements at this point. Ani Ranch, they're still, if you notice, they started working on the monument signs out front and the fencing. They got most of the utilities in as well. So there's still a lot of construction going on over there. Hacienda, which is across the street over here on the Woodlands, the 4-lot development, their preliminary plat, it had gone to P&Z. They had a long list of things to address as it related to a downstream assessment. They've gotten all that stuff done. They've got it all knocked out. So that preliminary plat will come to the council on June 13th for consideration. And then if there's no further questions, I'll turn it over to the chief of police, Ty, and let him give his quick updates on the PD.
Mayor, council. So for the month of May, we had 50 calls for service. Our citations are still kind of down with only 92. And we're currently sitting at 15 open cases. Well, a couple of them are closed, but 60% of those continue to be fraud and identity theft-based offenses. Other than that, I went to a CQB training down in Montgomery County Reality-Based Training Center, something I heard about when I was at one of my conferences. And the training was completely free, other than the hotel. Now, by the end of the year, they're going to have a bunkhouse at that facility, and then everything will be completely free. So I'm trying to find ways to keep the officers training to a certain level, but keeping our costs low. So when I heard about that, I'm like, it's free? I'm definitely going to check it out, and it was good training. So I'm definitely going to see if I can start sending one officer at a time down there. It's a drive. It's a 4-hour drive, but other than that, it's really, really good. Other than that, do you have any questions or follow-up concerns?
And what was accomplished at that training?
It was close quarters battle training. It was heavy weapons and sim force on force, clearing buildings in different rooms, and just practicing all of those skills that are necessary. Stuff that used to be primarily given to SWAT teams. Well, patrol gets there first, and if patrol doesn't know how to do that, they do the best they can. So what this was envisioned was after Uvalde, because it's completely funded by the state. The governor's a big proponent of it. They wanted to start bringing training to officers, and it's their concept. They plan to start potentially building other facilities like that around the state, and I'm hoping DFW area should definitely get one. So.
Hey, Chief, just a question. Is this something that would be, is it beneficial for like residential in a community like ours
for
where?
clearing houses, if there's, unfortunately, we ever get an active shooter situation, and some of these houses are quite large, being able to negotiate those successfully. It's part of the reason why I teach at the Tarrant County Police Academy, because I teach active shooter to the cadets, and I don't just teach them, but I learn and keep myself fresh with that.
Okay, thank you.
And then,
Yes, ma'am.
I might mention that Denton County's 911 offers free classes, and they are qualified for police academy.
Thank you.
And we don't pay anything because we're a member of 911.
Troy?
Chief Vaughn, you got some updates for us?
Evening, Mayor, Council, Ricky Vaughn, Fire Chief. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for those participated. May's a big month for us. We honor Memorial Day, and we had a couple of events there. We had our open house, memorial walk. I know I saw the mayor there. And then we had our blood drive. Paul was there, and we had, and both of those are just our way of just kind of giving back to the community, but also taking a moment to honor Memorial Day. So I want to thank those that participated in both of those events. I did get the report out. I don't know if Troy, I sent that to you. We just got it today, got it
Okay.
done. We try to get that the first 10 days of the month, but so we just got that out. May was a busy month. We've been tracking along about 3.5% in terms of call volume. For whatever reason, May was a pretty good spike, and we're up over 6% for the year. So just been busy. A lot of activity, a lot of rain. Had a fire in Lantana with lightning strike, and we had another one this morning. So been busy. A lot of activities going on. This summer, we're in the midst of summer, so we've got a lot of activity. All the kids are out of school, so as you know, we do a lot of things for that. This past week, we had our electricity safety where the kids get to blow up the hot dogs. And then next week, we got something new we hadn't done. We're doing, it's called Water Safety Story Time. They're going to be at Station 511 this Friday at 10 a.m. And then the day before that, in July, on July 11th, we do the snake. So that's always a lot of fun. That's probably our biggest event. And of course, being around Copper Canyon, there's a reason why it's called Copper Canyon. And so we'll have that on July 11th throughout the day. A lot of other activities going on. Biggest things for us, we're obviously in the midst of trying to finish out the new station in North Lake. We have a meeting tomorrow to kind of give an update. Our goal is to try to at least get a temporary seal by the end of this month. We'll just have to see. I think it's going to be closed. I think we may get into the first couple weeks of July. We'll see. But we have a meeting tomorrow about that. Other big news, I don't know if I told you previously, sometimes I can't remember everything I've briefed you on, but part of our strategic plan, we did a staffing plan, a short and long-term staffing plan. From that meeting, the board approved, we've identified some risk and vulnerabilities in terms of IT and also some accounting specialists. So we're in the midst of hiring 2 positions. As you know, with all the IT and the AI and the threats we're seeing, our servers get, they get attacked pretty much every day. And now that there's AI, you see it going more automated. So we're recognizing that. We recognize as we become more dependent on technology, we're taking steps to kind of make sure we stay on top of that. So exciting times. So we're hiring a couple positions for that. And then tomorrow we've got, we did complete our annual audit, and so tomorrow we're presenting that to the County Commissioners Court. So we'll be there tomorrow to present that. They'll review it and approve it, and a lot of good things. So that'll be the first time we've ever done an audit for ESD2. We've done them for ESD1, but this will be the first one for that, which is another reason why we need another accountant to kind of help, because we're trying to keep both books and the checks and balances and all those things that go along with accountability and transparency and all those things. So, but doing a lot of good things. But other than that, I'll be brief and I'll take any questions.
Appreciate your comments there. Anybody else got anything for the chief? Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your report. Any other staff reports, Troy?
Mayor, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on now to consent items. Items on the consent agenda are routine and administrative nature, such to consider for single motion approval, vote, and generally without discussion. Council members can remove an item should they choose, be it considered separately or action and discussion of an agenda item as part of the consent agenda. Tonight we have 3 items on the consent items. Approval of the May 11th, 2026 minutes of special town council workshop meeting. Approval of the May 11th, 2026 minutes of council meeting, and approval of the May 26th financials.
So I have a comment.
Go ahead, sir. Ma'am.
For the workshop meeting agenda, and I had told Sheila this, the adjournment time is incorrect. It is listed as 7:59 p.m. It should be 6:59 p.m. because we began our town council meeting at 7 p.m. So if not, the agendas are going to be incorrect, both of them.
Okay, we'll fix that typo error. Thank you for pointing that out. Anything else for, I'll take a motion to approve all the consent items, all 3.
I make a motion that we approve the consent items as amended.
Motion by Councilmember Newton, and a second.
I second it.
Seconded by Councilmember Hubbard. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay. That's approved 4-0, unanimous decision. Moving on, next items, discussion items. First discussion item brought up is going to be for discussion of the open space ordinance. I'll start that off with a discussion of why we have it to start with and why, how it got here. So I brought this up originally as a thought, and I asked Council Member Dahl to be the ramrod on it. And the issue for me, as I see it, Copper Canyon, is our developments and the use and the lack of open space inside those developments. We see the landowners sell their land off, developers come in and buy it, and they make gated HOAs, they make gated communities, but they don't give, and they comply with our green space use, but the green space typically is not places where families can go and enjoy the outside, enjoy the parks. Now, that's not a problem if you have large acreage lots. If you have 2 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres of lots, each individual home has their own little playground for people to go out and enjoy horses, enjoy things, and that kind of thing with their families. If you have smaller acre lots, half acre, 1/3 acre lots, they need some place to go outside and enjoy their families and enjoy their kids and things like that. You drive around Flower Mound, you drive around Louisville, housing areas, there's parks. There's things for people to go out and enjoy swing sets and those kind of things. And I'm thinking, well, as we develop more land around here in Copper Canyon, we need to develop for people who go behind gates when they come home, places for them to go for walks, places for them to enjoy the outside, besides just their small lot. So I asked for a thing called open space for parkland use. The town subdivision guidelines should ensure places for young families to enjoy the outdoors, whether their homes are on large 5-acre lot sections or on smaller half-acre lots. So this is just the start of that discussion. We, of course, will take the public input, staff input, and hopefully come up with a satisfactory development position for all of our future communities, which we will be developing future land sites. So I thank, he's not here tonight, Councilman Dahl for doing the research on it, working with our town manager Troy and myself to come up with these two baselines of work for the council to look at. And it's two parallel baselines. One is a baseline which parallels what a lot of the cities do, Flower Mound, I mentioned one, Highland Village, those kind of places that have parks and recreation areas. And then a more of a philosophy that deals with a basic philosophy of, depending upon how big your lots are, it drives less. If you design your subdivision to bigger lots, it designs less park space requirement. So tonight we're starting those 2 points. That's just a pure discussion area. The council has it in the packages on the two directions, the two parallel paths. And sooner or later down the road, we'll probably be choosing one, or maybe we won't choose any, depending on what the council wants to do. So that being said, I'll open up discussion. I'm going to start down at the end with Nancy and Henry, if she has any comments. I'll go through each one of the council members and see if they have any comments from what they've read so far. Nancy?
This would not affect people like, the Shackelfords, you know, people that have their property, that one day they want to build a house on there, maybe for their daughter or son or something, or like Robin and Kelly have 10 acres, and they may one day want to have a house there for her mom or her daughter. It wouldn't affect those people, right?
I would have to say, I would probably would not. It's more for subdivision development and land sale for, like, you know, for example, just purely an example, an Awney Ranch or a Copper Knolls.
But they shouldn't have to give up any of their land to donate for a park or anything if it's their own property.
Not
To
for,
add to it.
not for a private development, but if at some point in time, they decided they wanted to develop it into more of a subdivision and subdivide the lots to smaller lots, say
Because
to,
they're all some 2 acre.
yeah, so then, yes, they would be subject to it. Or if they
But
sold
if it's
to
for
a
their own
developer.
private, they
If you
don't
sold
have
to a developer, so,
only a developer, okay. I just wanted to make sure, because you don't know if like the Finleys, they have 10 acres.
Well,
They may want
and that,
2 acre.
and that's why we open up the discussion. Yep.
So I just want to protect the families.
So these are objects and that, you know, not considered so far, but when you write these down, we'll consider them as we progress towards a final document. So yes, those are good points, and we'll bring those up and mold them into the thing.
Because we need to protect the residents.
Absolutely.
I think I have kind of the same thought that Nancy does, that, you know, we have to consider that property owners have rights and that we have to look at all the angles of what this means with the land that is left. And we also want to look at the overall picture of all the aspects of what we're doing with this. And I'm open to the idea of this, but I want to make sure that every right is preserved and that we're careful with what we're doing with this.
Absolutely. Okay.
So,
Paula?
My turn. I have one question, and first I want to agree with you, thank Councilmember Dahl and you guys for putting this together, because it's a lot of information. I know it took a long time, and I know you put a lot of thought into it. One of the questions, it says that it's provided to serve new residential development. Are we leaving out commercial in the event that we eventually have commercial? Will they not like in town center, or if there was a PD on the south side of, on the north side of 407. I mean, how would this affect a commercial development?
Well, it's more, the idea behind it, the thought process that I started off with, and Jeff and I and Troy talked about, was more for homes and
Okay.
families more than commercial product.
Okay.
So, but that is a consideration that we hadn't brought up yet. but-
Yeah, we just need to make
Yep.
sure we have a contingency plan for that.
Absolutely.
And another thing is that, the one thing it says, let's see, where was it? That you have to provide, let's see, hold on. Basically that promoting public access. Core requirement is that the space must be dedicated via permanent public access easement. Even though the HOA maintains the land, the entire community can use it. So in other words, if there was a public park type thing, and let's say Copper Creek or Ani, one of those people did, how would the public access it if it was gated? And then if you have your people paying HOA, paying for the park area, but then every resident can use it. We would have to figure out something on that.
I agree with that. I think if it's a public park, it's public and it's not in a gated area.
Right.
Right.
Okay? I mean, any kind of open space that is part of a subdivision in a gated subdivision, that's gonna be part of their property, and they'll have the responsibility to maintain that.
But it wouldn't be public access. It's like Vickery. They have a beautiful area with walking paths in the pond, but technically, if I go over there with my grandson and fish, I'm trespassing, sort of, because, right?
Well-
So
I don't know.
what's- what-
I'm just asking.
No, it's a great question. And so what some communities do is the cities will require them to put the park on the outside of the fence. So if you look at Vickery, for example, that pond that's right next to 407, if they would have just installed some parking there, then it would have been easy for the general public to come, fish in that little pond that's outside of their gated community. Some communities do that. They may say, well, you got to have, an acre that has to be accessed through the public outside of your gates, and with
Okay.
1 or 2 parking spaces with sidewalk connections and that type of thing. So there's some things that we could consider
Okay.
before we would approve it, but yeah.
Because I think this is a great idea, and I'm
Yeah.
all for it. I just think we have to be real careful about,
Right.
making sure that people understand that this HOA is
Right.
sort of a private community. And I would like to see more open space in Copper Canyon, but of course, we have people that have 100 acres and 50
Oh, yeah.
acres and 10 acres, so we have to be sensitive to that as well.
Yeah, we're not demanding that. So the idea that my thought process and our thought process is here is when a piece of land is sold and a developer says, okay, I'm gonna build houses and I'm gonna put a gate up here and close it up, it's not for public access for the entire town, because clearly the developer is gonna have to dedicate a portion of that purchased land for these entertainment zones, if you wanna call them that, for lack of a more professional term, I guess. But it's gonna be for the people that live in that gated community, right? That kind of thing. So that way, because right now, if you look at what we have in our gated communities, estates being one, the other ones, it's not, they don't have any place for them to go out and enjoy the outside, save their actual land they have themselves. And the public access thing, the reason I rewrote that, or I wrote that direction, was sometimes we see the developers put the access that's required on our current ordinances for green space behind houses that people can't get to. Nobody's gonna walk through between two houses to go back and get to a playground or a dog run area or something like that. So we gotta make it convenient for the people to enjoy, whether it's 20 houses, in my view, or a land space where there's a new 70-house development. We have to give them something to be able to get out and enjoy. We haven't had to think about that before in Copper Canyon, because Copper Canyon has always been 2, 5, 10-acre lots. So you have your own playground right there on your own lot. Everybody does their own thing on their own lot. From 5-acre lots and along the kind of, well, up there along your street up north, or even our area down here in 1 acre, we don't have any parks in my area where I live. So that's the only reason I was thinking about this, get the conversations started, but not total, I'm not looking at total access to everybody outside of an HOA. Because what I don't want to do is I don't want, as we progress towards this conversation, I don't want the town being responsible for maintenance of those parks. You put it behind a gate, that HOA, that community, that developer is going to be responsible for dedicating land space and then have the HOA pay for maintenance of that thing. We want to make sure the town, because we don't have the revenue to make ourselves responsible for a lot of maintenance in the long term. But that's the initial discussion and good points. Victoria?
That was my question, just in our subdivision, our green space is the green space around, is the grass around our retention ponds, which really, you can't play in it. But it's all, if somebody wants to walk their dog or something, it's behind a gate. So it's not really public,
Right.
it's private. But I also look at Vickery. Vickery has a beautiful park behind the gate. So we can't actually force them to allow the rest of the members of the community. Unlike Flower Mound, where everything is public, even if they don't have too many gated communities. So there are a lot of pocket parks that are maintained by the HOA, but it's a public street. We don't have too many public streets, at least in the new development.
We have two areas in town, for everybody that's new or whatever, we have two areas in town. One's Chin Chapel North, that's an open area you can drive through. And of course, the Woodlands area, where people have the beautiful homes with the trees and things like that, but they all have big, large lots, right? And that was the process. We see now developers coming in and going, I'm gonna build smaller lots and things, even 2-acre lots on land, and so behind gates. So that was a process that I initiated this. We're gonna have lots of conversation about it, have lots of input about it, but clearly, once a developer dedicates those parklands, they deserve to make, the people inside that that gated community deserve to have access to that permanently. Anyway, so that was the discussion. That's what open space is all about. That's where that's kind of the direction I wish to go, or I hope to go, and we'll see what we end up with down the road through all the discussion and input. Does the town, anybody on council, anybody outside in the room have any discussion? Because we can discuss items here public. So hearing none, we'll go on to the next item, Dark Sky International. I want to talk about, before I bring it up, this is brought up by Council Member Henry, and I want to talk about the process that developed this to the agenda. For everybody to understand. Oh, sorry, Siri.
It's okay.
This is brought up by one of our citizens. And to get this on the agenda, the process is they need to bring it up to a council member or to the mayor or to the town manager. And we'll discuss it. And if you can convince one of us to bring it up, put it on the agenda, it shows up on the agenda. And that's how this got here. So the important point is, if you have something you want on the agenda and you're out of the audience or you're online and watching, please bring it up to a council member. You have our emails. And we'll discuss it, and if you can convince one of us to put it on the agenda, it'll be on the agenda for the next meeting. Totally open and transparent discussion. So I'm gonna hand that over to Nancy and let her discuss what Dark Skies means to Copper Canyon.
Dark Sky International provides a template of outdoor lighting for communities and requirements for any responsible lighting ordinance and approval. They have to approve it. So they talk about how we have light pollution, which is created from man-made, like outdoor electric lighting installations at night are overlit.
right, thank you, Nancy. Janae, what do you think?
So I have had a resident express concern to me, and I think that one of the concerns that has been expressed is a sport court that has been an impediment to him because it is something that, what my understanding is, lighting has changed in the recent years. I know that for me, when I am trying to change lighting, the ballasts have gone out in my older home, and we can no longer purchase the long tube lighting that we previously have had. It has changed into more of an LED lighting. The lighting is now, it's a color temperature, it's lumens, it's a different type of lighting. And that lighting can be a lot brighter. And that lighting now is, if you put it in an outside type of environment, it can be a lot brighter. I like to think that we're neighborly in Copper Canyon, and people may not realize when you put it in a sport court type of situation, even in a 1 acre property like I live in, or in like a 2 acre, that can be very bright when you're trying to play in like a tennis court at night. And I think that we need to look at this type of proposition, and we need to talk about what that looks like, because this new lighting can be very bright. We're also using something kind of like a jelly light, I think is
Jellyfish.
Jellyfish, thank you. I am not familiar with that term. And those lights can be something that is not regulated when we're putting in new home construction, and that's something that we need to talk about. And now is the time to be putting that in. In addition, that's something when I'm driving down 407, people are starting to put posts in their yard, and they're using a lot of string lighting, and I've seen several yards lit up like DFW could land jets in the backyard. And so these are things that we need to talk about, because that can disrupt not only neighbors, but also wildlife. Thank you.
Thank you, Janae, appreciate it.
I'll say something.
Oh.
In this dark sky, they tell you about the lumens, how much you can use, and they, it's all laid out because they don't want you being over bright.
Sure.
I understand what you're talking about.
Thank you, and Ms. Castillo?
I mean, I've been trying to get people to voluntarily do this type of thing for many years. I'm all for trying to get something like this passed. I think part of the issue that we have in Copper Canyon is a lot of the larger estates use lighting for security. And I could get a suntan in my bathroom at night from my neighbor across the street that had these 2 bright lights on his post. But, I think it starts a conversation. I think I'm really proud of Argyle for pulling this off in a large city like that. I'm all for trying to do what we can. I wish we could just do a voluntarily, people understanding what this does to the environment, but I don't think so. I think we're going to have a hard time getting people on board that don't want to, because they move out here to do what they want to do, and I get that, but maybe it starts here now. I don't
And
know.
that's why we have conversations. Victoria?
So I read through all this, and I have the concern, we limit the, as far as, the concern I have is not so much for our residents, but who we need to bring on board is the developers that create the CCRs for the HOAs. Because I know, as I've sat through P&Z meetings, watching the development of different subdivisions, we limit the number of lampposts that are in a community, which that really is a safety thing. I know we walk every night, and when it's not summer, in the middle of winter, 6 o'clock it's dark, and we have a lamppost every other block, which is a safety thing. But the state government does not allow us to regulate the jellyfish lights. And so we as a as a city, we have to allow it. But what we need to get on, who we need to get on board actually is the developers to write into their CCNRs that you cannot install jellyfish lighting. Like in our subdivision, our CCRs, they don't specifically call them that, but it says you cannot have them to prevent that, because I've seen it. Some of them look like it's a strip center. They flash, they change colors, and they're on all night long. It's not like landscape lighting. I have landscape lighting on my house, and at midnight, it goes off. In my house, the outside of my house is dark. But there are houses in our community that have the jellyfish light. They're flashing, and they're on all night long until it's dusk to dawn kind of thing. So we need to bring on board the developers, so they are the ones that can enforce this. We unfortunately cannot limit we can't limit the lights. And I get that there's guidance, but I think this can't be guidance, because we can't decide to do this if we don't have buy-in from the developers. That's the problem I see.
Talk about the CCRs in here.
Yeah, but we have to have buy-in. It's guidance. They don't have to do it, and if they don't do it,
Well,
you know,
in the they should need to do it in the CCNRs if they have the right kind of HOA, but your covenants and conditions and restrictions should not be, in other words, if a city has an ordinance regulating lighting, a CCNRs can't ignore a city's regulation. It's gotta be,
yeah.
right, so.
But right now, we have an ordinance that says how many lampposts we can have, but we can't tell a resident, hey, those jellyfish lights, your house looks like a strip center. You really can't put them on, So we need to have the buy-in of the HOA, the buy-in of the developer when he writes the CCNRs, that they say, really, there's no allowance for this. And I think then it may be something that it's not going to take a year. This may take 2, 3, 4, 5 years to get sufficient buy-in from the developers to do this.
Very good. Well, and good input. And I think, and this is just the first discussion on this point that's just brought up. So it's just a first discussion on it. But the point is, several years ago, before we had high-density housing medium-density housing put in here, I stood on that doorway with the guy who did the plan, and I looked up at the sky with him next to me, and he goes, man, look at how nice and dark that sky is and stuff, while we were trying to keep Copper Canyon the way it was. And he says, yeah, that's dark. He goes, that's dark skies. And I go, yeah, we're trying to keep that here. So this is the first discussion. We've seen that lose Copper Canyon, leave Copper Canyon for a little bit. I think, well, we set the rules, and we may can we do dark skies and keep our properties quiet and dark with ordinances? I don't know. Maybe there's two parallel paths we can investigate here. But this is the first discussion we can have on it. Clearly, a lot more research and a lot more input has to be done as we move down the road. But just as Victoria said, it's the first step that we need to do to move on down the road and keep Copper Canyon why people live out here. Thanks for the input. Troy, do you have anything at all?
No, sir.
Thank you. Any other final discussion on the items? Anything from the audience on the items? Hearing none, we'll go on to the next item, which is items for considerations. Members of the public may speak on these agenda items. And at my discretion, the first item we're going to comment on will be for 3 minutes if anybody wants to speak. The first item is consideration to take action regarding ordinance 2607, adding a new article 107 ethics, section 1.07.001 through 1.07.007 to chapter 1 general provisions. I'll start the discussion on that. We've been through this ethics discussion for about the last 6 months. We've had lots of input. We've had a couple of workshop meetings, and I will open discussion on that for any council member. Hearing no discussion.
No, I
Oh,
have
we
some.
have discussion?
I didn't know if we were starting over there or.
Well, okay, sorry.
Okay, so a couple of things. So I read through this, and I appreciate that we added a lot of the concerns that both Mitch and I expressed at the workshop. But one of the things I still don't see, there's not an ethics commission. The section 1.07.007 talks about the complaint is submitted to the town attorney. The town attorney reviews the complaint, and it says in subsection 4, it says a complaint that is submitted to the town is deemed an open investigation, therefore constitutes an exception to the Public Records Act until such time as it either is dismissed by the town attorney, reported to the law enforcement, or placed on the town council agenda for consideration. The reality is the town council can only receive it once there's been an investigation. So who does the investigation? It really can't be the town attorney, because who hires the town attorney?
Well, she is attorney of state of record,
Yes,
but she is a member of the court, so she has to be honest in what her investigations.
and I get that. But-
Okay, so let me talk about my interpretation of it. I think the way I read this is I'm not doing the investigation. I'm sort of just, okay, did they turn in this check? Okay, then I give it over to town council. It gets, then and it can be done in executive session, okay? And then, as I read this, the town council then is the one by supermajority who makes certain decisions on what can and can't, and I think that's 1.07.008, and it says in 6, it says during all stages of investigation or proceedings, the individual being investigated shall be entitled to be represented by counsel of his or her own choosing, and upon request, given a copy of the complaint and any associated documents and records provided to the town by the complainant at least 10 days prior to the hearing. The individual accused of the violation shall have the right at the hearing to put on testimony, present witnesses, and object to any evidence. So that to me is when, I guess if you want to call it the investigation is happening. I don't think there's the complaint has to be verified.
That's,
okay?
yeah.
But I just, or whoever your town attorney is, just kind of receives it, is it in order, and then passes it on.
So why would we not want to have an ethics commission? That's the question. Why would we not want to have, it's like being judge, jury, and executioner. We need somebody that's completely outside of here, that looks at the evidence, that can run it like a trial. What is the offense? What's the evidence? Hear from the person that has been basically, somebody found that their offense deems being reported, and to have their representation there. And then once there is a finding, the commission should say, okay, we find that there's something here to move forward, or there's nothing here. It doesn't need to come up. Then it comes to the council, and we determine. To skip that center step, I think we're missing the whole idea here.
Okay, well, I get your input, thank you, and the answer is, we didn't put the commission in here because we can't get enough people to volunteer for enough stuff already.
But the reality is, we're making an assumption that we're going to need it. If we are doing what we're supposed to be doing, we're not going to need a commission that meets every month. We might need a commission that meets once a decade. If we can't get 5 people in our community that once a decade to do this, we have people that care.
We have people that are elected, in my view, we have people that are elected. That's why we didn't write the commission in here and drop that out, but we put a lot of your other things in here.
Yes, I know.
So, I get your input. It's running late on the meeting. Let's go, Nancy, do you have anything at all you want to bring up? Any other commissions?
I'm not in favor of a commission on
Okay, Victoria, excuse me,
Background, so.
I'm gonna let you-
Janae, do you have any?
I'll let you go next, and then I'll.
Paul?
I haven't been for an ethics ordinance day one, and I don't think I've ever pretended that I do. I know that you guys put a lot of effort into rewriting some things, but only made it longer. And one thing that I have is just a few ones that I'm going to bring up, which you can see I wrote. On 8, on page 5, you cannot receive any fee or compensation for his or her service as an officer of the town from any source other than the town, except as may otherwise provided by law. This shall not prohibit us from performing the same or other services for a private organization that he or she performs for the town if there is no conflict with his duties and responsibility. How are we supposed to prove that how would that ever come up? How would we ever say, oh, you have a conflict because you're working for a private organization? I mean, that just, it once again gets too far in people's personal business that we are volunteering for. And I agree what you're saying, Jeff, Mayor, that bottom of the page 5. It's really hard to get volunteers. We can't even, get any volunteers. I will say, I think this makes it even harder, especially for the younger generation that looks this kind of thing and they're like, I want no part of that. Then on page 6, on 10, it says knowingly perform or refuse to perform any act to deliberately thwart the execution of town ordinances, rules or regulations, or the achievement of a town program. So thwarting, in my opinion, would be to not approve it. And so if we're all sitting up here and I'm the only one that doesn't agree with something that we're passing, is that thwarting it?
No.
Well, okay, if I'm understanding, your concern is for 8 on page 5. It says,
No, she's now talking about number 10 on the other side of the
Okay.
page, this one.
Right.
all right, so these things, if you go back to the very beginning, okay, so no officer of the town shall, that, I thought that there was a section in here that,
That's on number 4, where it says the prohibition shall not apply to the following.
Okay.
But then that ends at N
Yeah.
on page
Okay,
5.
I see, I
And
see,
then we
yeah.
start telling the things that we can and can't do.
okay.
And
okay.
then, and this, it makes it sound like if we refuse to perform any act in the execution of a town ordinance. So, and I'm digging here, but if I decide not to tell on my neighbor because he's violating an ordinance, am I now thwarting an official? Am I in not compliance with the ethics ordinance? And then once again, on 11, I still have a problem with conduct damaging to the town, results in the misuse of town resources, authority, or information, creates a substantial risk of legal liability, or constitutes unethical, dishonest, or fraudulent behavior. Once again, moral compass. Who's going to decide that? And, I have multiple here, like on B, additional standards of conduct. It goes on about town council, about present client and customers of town council. It doesn't mention planning and zoning or board of adjustments. And I think especially the planning and zoning commission, they have a lot of power. They should be involved in that as well. I get on number C that we aren't supposed to talk town business with any employees, or group of them, except going through the town manager. And let's just clarify it. Do we ask him before? Do we tell him after? Or do we have to put it in writing that we want to have a meeting with Sheila about something? And I think in the execution of some of our responsibilities, that could get in the way. It just happened to me last week where I ended up morphing into a conversation with our town municipal court, which later I thought about it and I was like, oh, man. So, and I just feel like that we're going over and above what we should do in a small town. I get that you guys understand that we need an ethics ordinance, but this makes me not want to sit here. I'm just telling you right now. Because there can be political retaliation, and you and I both know exactly that. Like, I had political retaliation against me in the last election. They took pictures of my house. They shopped them around on texts. I had yelled at in the street. I got, said I was breaking the law because I was going to be a council person submitting a mayoral candidate. And, I mean, I have the text, which I could read. And, I mean, literally on my walk going down Orchid Hill, I got yelled at in the middle of the street. And so this makes it very dangerous, in my opinion, some of this stuff here for retaliation. I mean, and they could bring it up. They could say, well, Paula did this, and then now I have to fight for my reputation, and Deborah's got to go and look in through all this. In a small town, everybody's going to know about it. They just are. And I just don't think that we need that. I think it needs to be tight. The Bartonville's is 6 pages, and, this is just over and above.
Okay, thanks for your input, Paula, appreciate it. Janae?
Well, this is a fun party. I am feeling like this is coming to an impasse, and I am ready to move that we table this because this is not going anywhere, and this is getting late, and this is where I'm at. So rather than make comments, I move that we table this discussion because that is where I think it is best utilizing our time.
Okay.
I was good-
Would you say
I
table
would-
it to the next council meeting?
Would like to table this until the next council meeting.
I would like to
That's where I'm at.
I'd like to recommend we make a motion to vote on it, yea or nay. We've gone on this long enough.
I hear that.
Well, you've got a motion on the floor.
I know that, but I'm trying to.
I hear
Can
that.
You take an amendment to your motion?
You're not going to get what you want out of it, so I make a motion that we table it. Sorry.
Is there a second to motion to table?
I third it.
Seconded. We'll vote for tabling this ordinance. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion tabled. We'll go on to the next one. Discuss and consider taking action regarding the Fifth Amendment of Professional Services Agreement between the Town of Copper Canyon and Safe Built Texas LLC. So the purpose of this is to add Safe Built to their item to their contract to do inspections and certification of septic systems and septic installations in our town. They don't have that on their contract right now, so we have to add that to their thing. And it's add for a backup to our current contract with our current OSSF inspector. Do I have a motion? Do I have any discussion on ordinance number 20? Oh, excuse me, taking action to add regarding Fifth Amendment for professional services.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the Fifth Amendment of Professional Service Agreement between Town of Copper Canyon and Safe Built Texas.
I'll second.
Motion made by Councilmember Hubbard, seconded by Councilmember Castillo. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay. And that passes 4-0, unanimous vote. Going to the next item. Consider and take action regarding ordinance 2609, amending the fee schedule and amending Article A 5.000 miscellaneous fees, Section W, on-site sewage facilities fees 1 and 2. This adds the fees that Safe Built charges to perform the functions of inspecting and approving on-site sewer facilities, i.e. OSSF facilities, which we just added to their contract. They have a little different fee schedule than what our current contract and supplier has. Do I have a motion relative to ordinance 26009?
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 26-09 amending the fee schedule by amending Article A 5.000 miscellaneous fee, subsection W on-site sewage facility fees 1 and 2.
Motion made by Councilmember Newton. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Henry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay. And that's approved, unanimous 4-0 vote. Discussion of future agenda items. Council members may request items be placed on agenda item for further consideration in future meetings. Does anybody have anything in which submitted? I see nothing at this time. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second. Motion made by Councilmember Newton and seconded by Councilmember Henry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay. And that's passed 4-0 unanimous. Meeting adjourned at 8:50 p.m.